So in this video, we're going to be going over how to start modding in DayZ. We're going to be setting up a local server, creating a modding workspace, going through how you retexture items, and finally, how to add this mod to your local server. Now we're going to be covering a lot of different things here, so feel free to pause the video, rewind, rewatch bits as we go, so that you fully understand what we're doing, but also to make sure what you're doing is set up properly so it all works at the end. So to start with, we just need to open up Steam. Up here where it says Games, if you just click here and make sure you have your tools selected, and then in the search, we just type in DayZ, and then you'll see you've got your tools, which we need to install, and then your server, which we also need to install. Now installing both of these may take a little while, so let's just leave these running and we'll pick back up afterwards.
2 very boring minutes later.
Now that those have finished installing, let's set up the DayZ server and make sure we can actually connect to it before we carry on with anything else. So to start with, you'll need to right click DayZ server, manage, browse local files, and that will take you to the folder where the DayZ server information is kept. What I also like to do is step back one folder, right click that, and then just pin that to the quick access bar so it's nice and easy to find on the left hand side here. Once you've done that, you'll need to open up your server dayz.cfg in your text editor of choice. For this, I actually use Visual Studio Code, which is free. I just use that because it looks a little bit cleaner than Notepad and I find it's just easier to work with. So the first thing I'm going to do is change the host name here, which is the server name. I'm just going to call that Alvaric test and then press Ctrl S to save that. And then just minimize that. The other thing we're going to need is a .bat file. This is what you can use to start up the server and also load in the mods. So I have one here on my desktop already, but you can find this file in the description down below. So let's go back to our DayZ server file, paste that in. Now we're just going to open that .bat file in our text editor. So I'm just going to open up Visual Studio Code and then drag that in and then move it up here so it's nice and easy to see. So we can see here that the server name is still example name. So I just need to copy that from the config over like that. Once you've changed the name, you just need to make sure the server location is linking to your DayZ server folder. So this is set up to be in my program files, which is in my C drive. So the easiest way to double check this is to go back to your DayZ server folder and then just click up here on the file path and then copy that in, just like that. If we just close that down, open our DayZ server and then just double click the .bat file to launch it. And then hopefully, if all's working nicely, this will launch a server with a window like this. And then if we open up DayZ, go to servers, and then click on LAN, we should see Alvaric test with the map name here. So let's just join that, let that run, and hopefully we can connect, run around a little bit, and make sure that's all working. Okay, and that seems to load up, and I've connected okay, which means that's set up nicely. The way the local server works is it's basically a self-contained server, so it's all the information is saved to your computer and you can actually use this to play in an offline mode, but the main reason we're going to use it is so we can load in mods and test them without having to rent a server or put anything up on the workshop. It's just so we can double check it all works before we post something. Right, now we're happy with that, let's exit and we'll set up the DayZ tools and get started with that. So let's go back into Steam and launch our DayZ tools. So the first thing we need to do now that we've opened up our DayZ tools is go into our settings and then make sure that the path to the game directory is where DayZ is actually kept. Now the way you can check this is if you right click on DayZ, go to manage, browse local files, and then you'll see the file path just along the top here, and we just need to make sure that that is matching what's on our DayZ tools. Once you're happy that the file path to the game directory is correct, just go back into Tools and extract game data, and then yes. Now this may take a little while, so just leave it running, and once it's finished we'll pick back up and carry on setting up our first mod.
Much later.
Okay, now that that's finished, just hit any key to exit, and then if we go back to our P drive, so this PC down to P, we can see that there's this DayZ folder. If we go into here, we can find all of the game data that we just extracted. So if we go into characters and then tops, and then in here we can see that all of the 3D models for the tops are here, which is a .p3d file. Then if we go into data, we can see that all the texture files are here as well. You've got two types of files. You've got your PAA files, which are image textures, and your RVMap files, which are materials, which are comprised of multiple different PAAs. But the important thing is that all of this is done. So let's go back and set up our mod so we can start working on our retexture. So we'll go back to the P drive, and I've got a template mod which I like to start with, which you can find a link to in the description down below. So I'm just going to copy that into my P drive here. Now I'm sure you probably don't want this to be named your mod, so if you press F2 and just type whatever name you want in, I'm going to call this Alivaric Retexture, and then I'm just going to press Ctrl A, Ctrl C to copy that. If you open that up, you can see that we've already got some folders in here. We've got characters, scripts, and then two files, PBO prefix and the config.cpp. The first thing we're going to do is open up the prefix and then just paste our folder name in here instead of your mod. And then just press Ctrl S to save that and close that down. The important thing with the prefix file is that the text inside matches the name of the root folder for your mod. Once we've changed that, we're going to open up our config.cpp. And again, in here we can see we've got your mod, which we need to change. But let's go through a few of the other pieces just to make sure you understand what we're changing and why. This file stores a lot of the base information for your mod, such as the author who made the mod, the name of the mod, and also the file path where it can find the scripts folders. We're not going to be doing any scripting today, so we can ignore those, but the one thing we do need to do in here is go through and change your mod to whatever the name of our mod will be, which is what we've called the root folder. If you're using Visual Studio Code, just highlight your mod, press Ctrl D until it's all highlighted, and then we can just type or paste our name in here again. Again, we just need to make sure that this matches perfectly to what the root folder is called. Once you've changed that, just press Ctrl S to save. One more thing to note in this file as well is that the required add-ons. In the template, I've just added all of the base PBOs that the game comes with, just so it knows to load all of those before my mod loads. But now we've got that set up, let's close this down, let's go back into our P drive and start getting some information together so we can start working on our retexture. So we're going to be doing a top, so we're going to DayZ, characters, tops. And in here, scroll down to the config. And for this, I'm going to be doing a down jacket. So we'll just scroll down until we can find the down jacket color base. Alright, so here's the color base. This item doesn't spawn, but holds lots of important information that other down jacket items will use. So the way this works is through inheritance. So we can see that the down jacket color base inherits from clothing, and clothing inherits from clothing base, which doesn't really mean much to us at the moment, but if I minimize down jacket color base here, we can see down jacket blue. Now down jacket blue inherits from down jacket color base, and what this means is that all of the information in here, such as the display name, the description, the item's size, how much storage it has, the installation value of it, and also the damage values, how much health points it has, and how much armor it gives you, are all inherited from the down jacket color base and applied to the down jacket blue. And anything in the down jacket blue within these two brackets here is stuff that's changed from the down jacket color base. So if I was to change the display name in the color base, it would change the display name for every down jacket. However, I could just change the display name for the down jacket blue, which would only affect that item, not the down jacket red, which also inherits from the down jacket color base. So with that in mind, let's copy the down jacket blue into our own config. So just highlight that, press Ctrl C, go back to your P drive, into Alivaric Retexture or whatever you've named your mod, and we're going to go into characters, tops, and open up that config CPP. Once we've opened that up, we're just going to paste that in here. But before we carry on, let's go through some of these other bits that we need to change in here just to make sure this is all working. You can see here again, it says your mod, this time followed by underscore tops. So I'm just going to change your mod to Alivaric Retextures. So the reason it's followed by underscore tops is because this CFG patches needs to be different from all the other CFG patches in all the other configs if you have multiple ones. And the way I get around that is just by adding the root folder of whatever this config is in to the end of my prefix name. And below as well, you can see some more required add-ons. And in here, rather than just having all of them in, I'm just going to have the ones that I need. So we've got DayZ data and DayZ characters. but also DayZ characters tops. And the reason I know to put these in is because in the tops folder where we found the down jacket, if we scroll to the top, we can see the CFG patches class name, DayZ characters tops. So this is basically telling the game that DayZ characters tops needs to load before this config can. If this is missing, this item may not work. But as it stands, this item won't work anyway, so let's change a few things and make sure this is all working. So the first thing we need to do is tell the game that down jacket color base already exists. So to do that, we just copy that, make a new line, type in class, paste down jacket color base in, and then end it with a semicolon. If we don't do this, we'll get a missing inheritance error, and that's because the game doesn't automatically know that this item exists unless we tell it to. So if we were to have multiple retextures of a down jacket, we only need to include the down jacket color base to inherit from at the top once. However, if we were to do a t-shirt as well as a down jacket in the same config, we would also need to add the t-shirt color base up here. But for now, we'll just stick with the down jacket color base. The other thing we need to do is rename the class. If we don't, anything we change here will overwrite the down jacket underscore blue. So to stop that from happening, we need to give it a separate class name. So I'm going to call this down jacket blue underscore alavaric. Once you've done that, save the file and minimize it, and we'll come back to that later. The next thing we need to do is go into our DayZ folder and find the down jacket that we want to retexture. So if we go back into characters, tops, data, and then scroll down until we see down jacket. Now here we can see we've got multiple different files. We've got down jacket AS, down jacket blue underscore co, down jacket no HQ, orange co, red co, and down jacket underscore SMDI. All of these files are relevant to the down jacket, but they all do different things. So let's open them all up and we'll take a quick look at them. So we've got some of the files open here. We've got the down jacket co, the SMDI, the AS, and the no HQ. Now the only thing that actually looks remotely familiar here will be the down jacket blue underscore co, and that is because the underscore co refers to the base color of the item. So this is what you would see in game and probably what you're more familiar with. And this is the image texture that's used to wrap around the model to determine the color of it to see what it actually looks like. The other textures like the SMDI, AS, and no HQ are still just as important, and they're actually used in the RVMap file I mentioned earlier, and are combined to make the material of the object. So they're used to make something look like leather, metal, or even cotton. I'll just give a quick rundown of what each one does, but we're not actually going to be touching these today. So firstly, we have the SMDI, and this is basically used by the game to determine which parts of the model are supposed to be shinier and which parts are supposed to be duller. So we can see the yellow parts here on the shoulders and the arms, which are the raised up part of the puffy jacket. They're going to be much shinier than these darker red bits here that sit underneath the arms. The no HQ is used to create false geometry on the model to make it look like higher definition than it actually is. So this is used to make the seams in between the puffs on the puffy jacket, as you can see along here. On the model, these are probably just flat faces, but this line here along the normal map makes it look like it's slightly indented. So now, finally, let's look at the underscore AS. The AS is ambient occlusion, and this essentially creates shadows around the model. So we can see the white parts here are bright and shouldn't have any shadows, whereas these pink bits actually translate to black. So these will have slightly darker shadows around the curves of the arms, and where under the arms will sit here. But that's enough about these extra textures. All we need to know is that because we're doing a simple retexture, we just need to take the base color. So we're going to copy the underscore co file to our desktop, minimize that folder, and then relaunch our DayZ tools if you don't already have them open. Because this file is a .paa, it's not actually readable by anything, so we need to convert that to a .png. And to do that, within a DayZ tools, if you open up text view, then you can just drag and drop into here, file, save as, and then just simply delete the PAA and replace it with NG. Then click save. So this will save it as a PNG that we can open up and edit in Photoshop or whatever image editor you use. So let's open that up and make some changes. So what we'll do is we'll just drag that from our desktop into Photoshop, and that will create a new file for us. For now, I'm just going to do a quick color change, but in the future I'll be making a video on how to make better retextures for DayZ, but we're just going to keep it simple today so we can move on. And that's good enough for what we're doing today, so let's go File, export, quick export as PNG, and we're going to save that to our desktop. And I'm just going to call this downjacket underscore alivaric underscore co and save. And then we can see our PNG is now on the desktop. If we open up text view again, we can now do the opposite to convert it back to a PAA so the game can read it. So we'll need to drag the PNG into the text view, file, save as, delete PNG and replace it with PAA. Save that, close text view down, and we can see here now on our desktop that we have the file. So we're going to copy that, open up the P drive again, go back into our retextures, characters, tops, data, and paste it in there. The reason all of this is kept within characters, tops, and has this folder structure is because I like to try and keep it as close to vanilla as possible, just so it's easier for me to navigate through and find things when I want to make changes. So let's go back to our config and change the file path. So let's open that back up. And in here we can see hidden selection textures. And this is what the game uses to apply the textures to an item. So what we need to do is make sure that this file here is linked to our one. So we'll go into our data file, press F2 to copy the name of that, Control C, and we're just going to change the name of these to our folder name. The other thing we need to do is change the file path, because currently DayZ characters tops data doesn't include this item, so the game won't be able to find it, and the item will just be loaded in with no text, and it'll just be bright white. So we're just going to go up here, copy the file path, and the important thing here is that we only copy from our prefix onwards, so we don't include the P. So we'll copy that, select this. Again, using Visual Studio Code, I can press Ctrl D to select all of those and paste that in. Now, if we save this file, now that the config is set up, let's close that down and start working towards making a PBO that the game is able to read. So the first thing we need to do is go to our P drive and make another folder. So just right click, new folder, and you're going to start with an @ followed by the name of our mod. I'm just going to call this alivaric test mod. Then in this folder, right click, make a new folder called addons, all lowercase, and that's it. Now just go back into your P drive, make a new folder and call it keys. Once you've done that, open up your DayZ tools and open up DS utils. Here you'll find private key, click N, check the destination path goes to that keys folder we've just created, and then we'll need to give it a name, which is in the authority name. For me, I've used LV Tut. Once you've renamed it, click Create Key and press OK. So if we go into that keys folder, we can see we've got two keys. The private key, which is our key, the bikey, which we give to other people so that their server can open up and read the mod. A key basically locks the mod down and prevents other people from using it if you don't want them to. However, this method isn't foolproof and there are ways around it, but for most of the time this is going to be good enough. If you want to keep the mod private, you just don't include the bikey in the workshop mod. Once we've done that, we need to copy the bikey, go into our DayZ server. There's a folder in here called keys, open that up, and we're going to paste the key in here. If we don't add the bikey into this DayZ server keys folder, the server won't be able to use the mod and it'll act as if the mod has never been added. Once we've done that, let's make a PBO and lock it using the key we've just made. So let's go back to DayZ tools and open up Addon Builder. Yours will probably look a little bit different to this, but let's set it up. So first, let's go into options. They'll have a list of files to copy directly, which is a bunch of different file formats. I'm going to copy these into a paste bin link, which you can find in the description down below. Once we've done that, we need to put the path to where our private key is. So for us, we'll go back to our P drive, go into keys, click on the private key, press F2, Control A, Control C, click on our file path, / paste it there, and then Control A again to copy all of that with Control C, minimize, go into Addon Builder, and then Control V just to paste it all in. Then the path to the temp folder, which we can find is p/temp, and then the path to the project folder, which is just the path file to our P drive. Once that's all set up, press OK. Now we need to set up the add-on source directory. So let's go back into our P drive, and then what we can do is just press F2 to copy this, click on our file path, paste it in, Control A, minimize that, and paste that in here. And now we need to do something similar for our destination directory. So if we go back to our P drive, this time we're going into our mod, which is our @alavaric test mod, and then into the add-ons folder. And this time we're just going to click on the file path, Control C to copy, and then paste that into the destination directory. And now we just need to include the prefix, which if you've been following along properly, will be the name of your root folder. So we can just copy that from the add-on source directory and paste it in there, but without the p:/. There, all we need to do is click pack. Now, give it a moment. Once it's all done, you should get build successful. Now, if we go back to our P drive, back into our @alavaric test mod folder, add-ons, you can see we have our PBO and our PBO by sign, which means it's been signed properly and it's packed up nicely. So the next step will be to add some mods to our DayZ server so we can test our retextures working and add in some admin tools. So let's go to the DayZ workshop in Steam Community Workshop, DayZ. So for this, I'm going to be using VPP admin tools just because I prefer the way it's all laid out when you're in game. So let's click on it and subscribe. And then if we look here, we can see the required items and it requires CF, which is Community Framework. So if we click here, scroll down and click subscribe as well. Now that that's finished downloading, we need to find out where the workshop has saved all this information. So the easiest way to do that is to go to Library, right-click on DayZ, Manage, Browse Local Files. Once you're in this folder, you need to go to View, Show, and tick Hidden Items to reveal the !workshop folder. So let's open this up and see where our Community Framework tools and VP admin tools are. Now, if you've just subscribed to these mods for the first time, they're not actually going to appear here. So what we need to do to fix that is just go back to Steam, play DayZ. Now just open up the launcher and then it will load the data, check for updates and install any new mods into that workshop folder. Once those are finished downloading, just close that down, go back to the workshop folder, refresh, and they should be here. So the first thing we're going to do is add CF to our server. So we need to click this, press F2, Control C to copy, click on here to get the file path, add a slash, paste that in, Control A to copy all of it, Control C, open up a new Windows tab, go into DayZ server and open up the start.bat file. In here, on line 19, we can find mod equals, and then all we're going to do is paste the file path in there and add a semicolon on the end. Now we need to do one more thing, which is add the key from Community Frameworks to our server. So let's go back to our workshop mod, open up the CF folder, go into keys, copy the bikey into our DayZ server keys folder. And then we need to repeat this process for the VPP admin tools. So we'll go back to our workshop folder, scroll down till we find VPP admin tools, F2, Control C to copy, click up here, add a slash and paste it in, Control A, Control C to copy all of that, go back to our start.bat, paste that in, add a semicolon, and make sure we save that. Go back into the workshop, open up the VPP admin tools, and copy the key over into the keys file. Now that we've added both of the keys, we need to set ourselves as an admin. But before we can do that, we need to just go back to DayZ server and run the bat file once until the server is fully launched in order to create the VPP admin folders. So we'll just leave that running, open up the DayZ console here, and now we just need to let it launch fully, which may take a moment. And once we see entering in saved process at the bottom, we can close that down. Now, if we go into our config folder, VPP admin tools, we can see all of the lists here. So what we need to do is add ourselves into the permissions file. So go into permissions, superadmins.txt. All we need to do is paste our Steam ID in here. If you don't know your Steam ID, you can go into Google and type in Steam ID Finder, open up Steam ID Finder, type in your Steam username, and what we're after is the Steam ID 64 deck, which is this one here for me. Paste that in, Control S to save it, close that down, go back to permissions, open up credentials, and then we need to set a password. So we're just going to delete everything in here, and then the password is just going to be all lowercase, test, so it's nice and simple. Close that down. Now that we've set up the admin tools, we just need to add our own mod. So we need to go back to our P drive, click on the add-on folder, press F2, Control C, click up here, add it to the file path, press Ctrl A, Ctrl C, back into the start bat file and paste that in. And then finally, we need to go back into the keys folder on our DayZ server and make sure that our key has been added already, which we should have already done. Go back to our DayZ server and run the bat file. Now what we need to do is open up DayZ, go to our mods, go to local mods, go to our P drive, and click on the at folder that we made, which is our Addon folder, and click select folder. What this does is this tells DayZ that this mod that we're trying to load in is a local mod, so when we connect to our server it knows where to load it from. So if we go back to our LAN, refresh, and our server should be launched by now, click join, and we can see that we've got 3 mods. We've got our local mod that we added, our admin tools, and the community framework which the admin tools require. But just to make sure, click setup DLCs, mods, and join. Now that we've joined the server, if you press end, it'll ask for the password that we just set to test, so we'll put that in. Press OK, press home, go to your item spawner, and this is where we're going to type in the class name that we gave to our retexture a little while ago, which for me was downjacket_alavaric. Change that to spawn on the ground, double click that, and then just check that the retexture is all there. And you can see it's got the same name, the same slots and storage size as the vanilla down jacket because that's what it's inheriting from. We can put it on. And that is pretty much it. If this video has helped you get started in DayZ, please give it a like. If there's anything you've struggled with, please leave a comment down below and I'll do my best to try and help you out there. And if you're interested in more DayZ modding videos, please don't forget to subscribe.